You can win to lose or lose to win. There is no win-win, especially for the younger generations. This is an important concept to keep in mind when it comes to employment, and it is relevant to both employees and employers. But what do I mean by that? Here it is. I wish I had better news for you, but it's often the case that you can have the job you want, or you can have the job terms you prefer. But you very likely won't be able to have both. This means that you might not be able to have the terms you prefer with the job you want. Or you might not be able to have the job you want with the terms you prefer. The only people who can get both are either very, very skilled and connected, or very, very lucky. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't have a job with the employer you want, but that this very often comes at a price. The price of the employment terms you prefer. Think remote work. You might want to earn a high salary at one of the Magnificent Seven companies, but you most likely are going to have to do it on their terms because so many others want that high salary that they provide. When this occurs, I call it winning to lose, because on the surface, you won. Hooray. You got the best employer on your resume, or you got the killer salary. But the costs associated with winning are so high that the victory is often a hollow one. What you've won is a perpetual defeat. You lose when you win. And this typically occurs in one of two ways. In the first case, this can happen when people put the employer or job they want ahead of the terms they prefer. They have their sights set on an employer or role. They are single-mindedly focused on that one specific position. I want that job. I have to work at that company. And that is the path of pain. Why? Well, since people are functionally communicating with their behavior, that is, this one company or nothing, or what is basically the same thing, communicating that they're willing to do anything for this one role, they place themselves over the barrel in the employment negotiation process. If you take that path, you kind of can't balk later on that you aren't enjoying the terms. Specifically, that you're not enjoying the terms that you prefer. Because if you had made that employment conditional to begin with, you might not have succeeded in securing the position at all. On the other hand, it's good practice not to focus on any one company until they've hired you and consistently shown an interest in maintaining your employment. Specifically, in maintaining your employment in the way that you would like them to. Otherwise, you are effectively watering the weeds. By reinforcing behavior that you do not prefer, the issue is, of course, that the employer in question might never proactively recruit you or show an interest in employing you. So if you don't give up on that employer, you'll have to give up on how you would prefer that employer to show up, because something's got to give, right? However, this can be dangerous. When you put the employer ahead of your terms, you often lose when you win. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you have your sights set on Google, Amazon, or Netflix. Well, I've got bad news for you. It's extremely unlikely that these companies are going to be pursuing you. It's extremely unlikely that they're going to proactively be recruiting you. You'd have to be an industry-leading subject matter expert or a person with connections to government, perhaps even a very wealthy individual that could invest in growth in the company. And then you might be able to get them to move to you. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you can't become employed by these companies. You'll probably still have to be very above average for this to work, but it's not technically impossible. It will only be impossible if you are only above average and expect them to recruit you with your dream terms. This means that you will likely have to bait your hook. You might have to bait your hook with coming into the office 5 days a week and relocating to where they want you to. You might have to bait your hook by participating in 8 rounds of useless interviews. You might have to bait your hook by playing tactical negotiation games. You might have to bait your hook by being persistent and networking with as many people in the company as possible to gain a positive reputation. Contrary to popular belief, this can work from time to time. Generally, when an employer is looking to backfill a role, they're going to look for a unicorn candidate that did all the things that they loved from the last employee with none of the things that they hated about the last employee. It's sort of like a cleanser for the expectations of the role. It's really where they're going to be getting a little refreshment before they become even more ruthless with their expectations of you, especially after they conduct a layoff when they're going to pile on more work. So there are a lot of ways that you can bait your hook, but you're going to have to do something. And it's probably something you wouldn't even consider doing for a less prestigious employer. And that's just how it is. The issue is that if it works, you kind of have to do what works forever in order to maintain your employment. And the more employment revolves around what the employer wants, that is, the more frame or negotiation leverage that you cede to secure your employment, the more expensive that employment becomes in the long term for you. But you'd be damned if those golden handcuffs don't tempt you. Trying to wrestle that negotiation power back or to get your own needs met by having the terms that you want will invite instability and conflict, because that is not what the employer signed up for, and you lose when you win. Now, the second way that people can win a perpetual defeat in their employment is by negotiating with highly prestigious employers. That is independent of whether people choose to put that employer ahead of the terms, as previously discussed. You can't have any job with any employer for whatever reason. People believe that they should be able to have the terms that they want with the employer that they want to have those terms with, and that might not be true. In fact, getting what you want from the employer you want to get it from is exceedingly rare. The more prestigious an employer is, or to put it another way, the higher their experience on your resume adds to your marketplace value, the more likely you are to be the less powerful party in the negotiation process. And as the less powerful party, it will be expected of you to sacrifice ground. Consider doing business with a political elite or Magnificent Seven company. You might have to put in way more work than you personally feel that work is worth in order to get them to sign you onto the team or a project. Furthermore, you might have to give in to a host of ancillary demands just to seal the deal. This is the cost of doing business with highly desirable employers. Why? Because these industry leaders know that if you're going to give them what they want, or if you're not going to give them what they want, they can easily find somebody else that will. Guys, a lot of you are cooked because so many of you are targeting a small subset of highly desirable remote roles. This is not only increasing your market competition dramatically, but it reduces the likelihood that any one of those roles will commit to extending an offer to you, as someone else is willing to sacrifice more than you are to secure that role. Truth is, only one person succeeds in each role, which means fewer than 1% of people succeed. And this means that if you want to secure employment with such terms, you will be expected to cede ground. This is the cost of doing business. Why? Because the employer knows that if you don't give them what they want, they can easily find someone else who will. In the vast majority of cases, you will only succeed in securing employment with such an employer if you allow them to dictate the terms of the employment. If you want employment on your terms, then look to those who find your skills and your abilities very desirable, and make peace with the fact that it will be unlikely that you will also find that employer highly prestigious in return. You can get what you want at a price, or you can take what wants you at a discount, and that's the rub. What do you think? Please share your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. And if you've made it this far into the video, you may as well like the episode and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos just like this one. Until next time.